What's going on, Panther Nation? It's your man C Dougie here. Yes, we have another video, 2 videos this week. Again, right before we head out to military training, have another special guest here on this great Thursday. Definitely enjoyed this man's content. Has a YouTube channel, but is more active on the Twitter side. He's not a new guest here. You guys have seen him before. He's come on with a group, done individual videos with us as well, but I love his content. I know you guys do too. So let me go ahead and bring up our guest for this episode, and it's Mr. Edgar Salmingo. How are you doing over there on the West Coast, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, Doug?
I am good, man. Like I said, I cannot complain. I think we're just all ready for football, man. Like, this topic here I could have did before the training camp video, but with different sites, different analysts coming out disrespecting the Panthers, I think there is pressure on certain groups and certain individuals for the 2025 season to be successful. But like the title says, the pressure is on the pressure meter. But I think some of these individuals are going to be ready for it. Some may meet it, but may not exceed it, meaning that excel with the pressure. But I think there is pressure on a couple of groups and a couple of individuals, and I think we're up for it. I think the enthusiasm for the fan base is through the roof. I think people think this is a new time around in the Carolinas, but how are you feeling about with the pressure? And then again, with training camp basically being 2 weeks away.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come on.
Yes, sir.
I see you, man. I watch the videos. You have some amazing guests on here. You're going live. You're upgrading your graphics. So I see you from afar and a fan of yours, Doug. So I appreciate you for having me on. Like you said, I just can't wait for football season to get here because there's too much talk and too much hype on videos and highlights. It's like, let's just get to the real deal. But it's Dan Morgan's second year. It's Doug Canales' second year. So I wouldn't say there's a lot of pressure on them specifically, but for us fans, we've gone through 7 straight losing seasons. So
Correct.
Whoever is in there, even if it's their first year, there's going to be a ton of pressure on you because we haven't experienced winning in a very long time. And so I think the bar really is, can you be better than last year? Because if they get worse than last year, then the pressure is through the roof. But for me, just got to be better than last year. And I'm tired of all the hype video. I mean, I love all the videos. I'll consume all the content that's out there, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to make any more. I don't want to hear any more sweeping claims about how the season's going to be based on one throw from Bryce Young to Tyrell McMillan in the offseason. Let's just get to some real football.
And let's get into it. Like I said, we will shout our sponsor out in the middle of the video. We're going to change it up this time. But I mean, the first person outside of the thumbnail who I think has the most pressure on them is the franchise. Will Bryce Young answer the call? If you look at the bottom right, the wheel shows how much pressure is on Bryce right now. And I put 60%. If Edgar wants to go up or different, I would love for him to voice it. But a couple of bullet points that I think we have to look at is coaching staff remained intact. Top 10 offensive line returning, not losing anybody. 2 1,000-yard rushers in the backfield behind you now. More offensive weapons were added. Rico Dow, T-Mac, and Jimmy Horn Jr. And a lot of people are talking about how Bryce Young finished the season off last year on a high note, especially that Atlanta game, but also the last, 6 to 8 games, how he played, regardless of win or lose. Bryce is like a different quarterback. So our first pressure meter candidate is Bryce Young, the franchise, at 60%. And I honestly think, like Edgar opened up, I'm so tired of my own tapes, everybody's tapes. The product has to be on the field. And one thing that I love what Dave Canales has done is we have joint practices at home and on the road. That does not mean that I do not want to see them during preseason, but I feel like the more live reps Bryce gets against 2 great defensive units is going to help him from the gate going into Jacksonville week 1. A lot of people still do not like Bryce Young as our quarterback. So what? That's old news. We're going in almost to year 3. So what else is there to, we got to take the bullets that we have. So for me, I think adding another running back where Dave said he wants to be stubborn with the run, I love. Then you bring in that big body wide receiver that he had in Seattle, that he had in Tampa, and C-Mac. Then you bring a speedster who we have not had in Carolina since a Ted Ginn Jr., probably since a Robbie Anderson. So there's different elements that have been added during the offseason. I did a video last offseason about there's no more excuses. There's definitely not an excuse. Again, you have a favorable schedule to start. Possibly, I've heard 5-0. I'll just go 3-0 because again, I know things happen. You start on the road back to back in Jacksonville and Arizona. Then you come home for your first divisional game, which I think if we come out before week 3, 2-0, the bank is going to be rocking. I can't wait. I'll be there. We'll talk about the section I'm at. I just think everything is right. And again, one note that even Dave Canales, I've heard his teammates say, Bryce Young doesn't have to worry about another offensive coordinator or another head coach. Again, that first bullet point of retaining and remaining the intact coaching staff on offensive side of the ball is very important for Bryce Young in year 3. Again, having that offensive line come back intact is important. Adding more weapons and him building out the momentum that he was able to build off from last season, I think is going to be impactful. What you got, Edgar?
Yeah, I mean, 60% is actually a really good number. I might. It's hard to say because I want to say that he has a lot of pressure and he has no pressure at all, right? And so why he has a lot of pressure? We're going to year 3 of the number 1 overall pick. He got another first-round wide receiver, right? So last year, Xavier Leggett, this year, Tedero McMillan. So you've got 2 first-round wide receivers. You've got the offensive line you talked about, and he's got a returning offensive play caller, which is big because like he had 3 switched multiple times in his first year, right? And so like a lot of things are like, okay, now the pressure's on you, right? But then I feel like there's also not a lot of pressure on him, right? So think of it this way: like when you look at the running backs, when you look at the wide receivers, like the tight ends, no one's gonna say that he has a top 10 offensive weapon, right? Like I could imagine most people would say like there's 10 teams out there that have better weapons than Bryce Young, right? And so if he doesn't have the weapons, like obviously we have 1 rookie, 1 second year, Adam Thielen, Chuba Hubbard, who's been great, but I mean no one's gonna say that this is like a star-studded offensive line, offensive. So at some level, the pressure is off of him because he's expected to elevate these people, not the other way around. And so 60% is a good number to land on. I'll also say that, like, I think because we're so far removed, like you said, we haven't watched football in a while, real football in a while. Bryce Young ended that season like amazing, and so like there was there was a viral post and an article from Jared Feinberg about who are the top 10 Carolina Panthers right now. There's a really good argument that Bryce Young is the number 1 Carolina Panthers on this roster because without Bryce Young, there's like nobody else. We went a season without Derek Brown. We've gone seasons without J.C. Horn. But when Bryce Young is at his best, like they were in every game. They're in against the Eagles. They're in against the Chiefs. And there's no way they're in those games without Bryce Young. And so I can argue that he's the number 1 player on this team. And he has to be because he doesn't have like elite all-pro weapons around him. And so I say 60% is a good part. There's pressure on him, but there's also reasons if he fails, people would say like, I know why. He doesn't have a star tight end. He has a young wide receiver core and he has an old wide receiver in his core. So I can see both sides in terms of how much pressure is on him.
Yeah, and honestly, like I agree with you. It's almost like a double-sided sword. Like they have to do their part, and Bryce has to do his part. One thing that I think the enthusiasm of this team is because we build it the right way on the offensive side. You went through the draft, you're young. You do have a veteran in the wide receiver room. You do have Chuba Hubbard that's coming off a 1,000-yard season. You added another one. Again, the pieces on the offensive side, I think, brings enthusiasm back that if the defense could just be subpar, I think the offense, we know what the offense can do. And sometimes we had the offense do well, the defense couldn't do it. Vice versa. Defense helped, offense couldn't do it. So, like I said, it's a double-sided sword on the offense and defense, but I do think Bryce is ready to accept the challenge. Shout out to Bucky Brooks. He literally said, this young man has never felt adversity until this past year. Coming from modern day where you're out there, going to Alabama, being drafted number 1. This is the first time we've ever seen this type of Bryce Young. So I said 60. Some people probably are going to say higher. Please let us know in the chat. I mean, if you feel higher, let us know in the comments as well why you feel that way. But speaking of defense, the next candidate is Evero scheme, the master plan of Evero. Is it the scheme that's the problem, the reason why the defense is not prevailing and being held back? I did do 80. I can possibly negotiate and go 70. But think of the new additions that he's gotten just in his second year. Travion Wharton, Bobby Brown III, Patrick Jones, Travion Moore, Nick Scorton, Princely, Yumin Yellen. Then you have Lathan Ransom, and you have Cam Jackson. Then Dan Morgan came out and stated during his closing presser of the 2024 season, I had to do a better job of addressing depth, giving him more pieces, helping Evero in his scheme. Because if you look at it, we were bringing people off the street or other people's practice squad to come in and play, which did not help. But you address the front end, but a lot of people are questioning the back end, Edgar. And I think that's where the issue lies, where a lot of people love the additions, but it's a give and take. You can't fix everything in one offseason. But I do love how our coaches love the youth. I was gonna say rookies because we really haven't heard Lathan Ransom's name, but I think he's gonna do well. But I do think we have to see how this youth movement. One that I love is Chai Smith-Wade name was getting called every day. That means that our coaches are coaching him up. He's buying in and everything. So I do think out the gate, if we can't stop the run, and the defense is the reason why we lose the game, if we lose to Jacksonville, I think that's going to be on high alert. And I do think 80% out the gate will happen, but I would go 70. I would go 70 right now. I did put 80 on the slide, but I think 70% pressure is on Ejiro Evero.
I'd go even higher. I'd go like 100% pressure on him.
Yeah.
You know, like he's been here. This is his third year, right? Remember, last year they had the worst scoring defense in the history of the NFL.
Right.
Obviously, granted, we had an 18-week season, so obviously he had one extra game compared to the previous years. But even still, like we watched these games, Doug, right? And we saw them just get destroyed. No, they couldn't stop anything, right?
Correct.
First down, second down, third down, doesn't matter. They could just run the ball at any time, and there was nothing, right? And so, like you said, Dan Morgan invested in the defensive line, right? Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown, I think they're going to be great, right? Derek Brown returning. That's the biggest thing you can do. He put all his chips into the front seven, right? And then there's the back end where, like you said, like it's very, very interesting. We're investing in the youth with Chai Smith-Wade and Lathan Ransom, possible starters. You know, I keep saying online, like, you know, J.C. Horn's not the most reliable person. So if he just steps wrong in the offseason, right? Or if Trayvon Merrick, something happens to him, like you are one ankle twist away from nothing, from being, you're already not the strongest secondary, but like just one, you have no backup plan if something happens to them, right? Like we just saw last year what happened to Derek Brown. He gets hurt and there's no there's no depth, there's no nothing behind Derek Brown. I look at the team like the Detroit Lions last year. They made the playoffs. They made a strong run. By the end of the year, their defense was completely completed. Right. They had nothing left. They lost all their starters, but they were still in the games. They still made it to deep in the playoffs. Why? Because that depth in that back there, and maybe they're not names that people know, but at least they got depth. And so,
correct.
You're basically rolling the dice that these guys. I'm not saying that they're not going to be good, but like the fact is that they have nobody back there that has been productive in the NFL yet. You're just kind of banking that they can be, but they've never proven it before. And so. That sucks, but I would say the pressure again is up because people want Evero's job gone after last year, right? And so if they struggle this year with Derek Brown, with an upgraded front, and the defense still is terrible, you can't blame you can't defend Evero anymore. Like you got everything that you wanted. On top of that, they signed all the free agents last year that had ties to Evero that worked with him before.
Josie Jewell, Sean Robinson. Yep.
They fired some of the coaches, right? And so like there's literally nobody else left to hold accountable once you upgraded everything and you fired the coaches. And so Evero, maybe not the scheme or the defense itself, but Evero himself has a pressure of 100% because if they struggle to start this year, there's no other excuses that you can make for any struggles that the defense has next year.
My deep gut, Edgar, is that if this defense can be, I've been saying 15. The more the season's coming closer, I'm being more. I'm trying to be more precise and considerate of the rest of the league. In the beginning of the season, when we were signing for agents, I was saying top 15. Well, not top 15, at least 15. If our defense can be anywhere between 18 and 20, I still do believe we can make the wild card. We cannot be at the bottom 10 of the of the NFL rankings with defense. Again, Jacksonville has ETN. Is it Thomas, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. We cannot allow, with the acquisitions on the defensive side, to come out flat. If they're running the ball just like they did last year on our defense, again, like you said, with DB coming back, you got Wharton, you got Bobby, you got Ashawn, Merrick. That's an issue because, again, it's not the players. It may be the scheme. But one thing that I do love more this year, we didn't just go after Evero guys. We went after scheme guys. And that's one thing Dave Canales and Dan said. They wanted to address the scheme more. They wanted to tweak his scheme because we've heard Evero's scheme is elementary. I've also heard Evero's scheme is hard. So, again, we will see. You don't have to wait during preseason. I hate we're not going to see it because, again, training camp is closed to the public, but we will know from the jump when the Pittsburgh Steelers come out. Not the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think I said that earlier. The Cleveland Browns come to Charlotte for joint practice. We will know if this defense is playing with their heads on fire. And I'm really hoping, again, this number for Evero goes all the way to 20 or 30. Just based off the performance midway through the season, that, again, if that defense is anywhere between 15 and 20, I do still think that the pressure's off of him. He may get a head coaching job. That's one thing everybody was saying. Everyone's not going to be here in Carolina alone because somebody's going to go grab him to be a head coach. But the pressure is on him right now. And if he doesn't succeed, I do think he gets fired, but I do not think he comes out the gate and gets a DC job.
I mean, for the record, I want him to be successful. Like, I don't want anybody to lose their job. We're rooting for him, but it's a production-based business. Fans have an expectation, like you said. Even 15 to 20 would be fine, right? Like, we're just looking for that. And one thing that you mentioned, the Jacksonville game, week 1, their head coach and their play caller, Liam Cohen, he saw him twice last year. And so theoretically, Evero has a little bit of advantage because we're not going against a guy. We have no idea how their offense is. Obviously, he's never coached the Jaguars before, but the basic elements of the offense, Evero should have seen before. So if they get, lest we forget, a year ago against the Saints, against a team where, again, the defense was fully healthy. Yeah, they've seen this offense before. They've seen this defense before. They got completely blown. Steamroll. Like, it wasn't even steamroll. It wasn't even competitive. Like, blown coverages and people just running all over them. And so if we do this again for a second year, that's what I said. Pressure's on, and I'm rooting that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and so our second candidate is Ejiro Evero's scheme. You kind of said something about our third one, and the title for this slide is backwards or forward. And Edgar literally said it, is this room one injury away from failing this defense? So I combined our safeties and our corners and gave them 70%. Because if JC Horn, I'm being hypothetical, he plays the same amount of games he did last year, that's great. Chai Smith-Wade pushing Mike Jack. Not saying that I think Chai Smith-Wade would play on the outside, but competition is going to be great for these DBs right now. Travion Merrick, what we've been hearing, rave reviews of leadership, showing that he can stop the run. So, I mean, even with them thudding right now, I can't wait till the pads are on. But one name that we did not say opening is Damani Richardson, a rookie that had the opportunity to play last year. And then you add Lathan Ransom to actually up that competition to play aside Travion Merrick. I love the competition, but again, I agree with you. Like the title of the slide, they're one injury away from failing this defense. And I know people are saying Asante Samuel Jr. is out there. Julian Blackman's still out there. I don't know what we're waiting on. I really don't. I would love an extra body. Justin Simmons' name has came up recently over the last couple of weeks because camp is, mini camp has been ended. But for me, I am worried about the depth. That's the reason why the DBs are up here. I'm worried more about depth. I'm not worried about JC Horn if he's healthy. I do think Mike Jack will have a better year because he'll have a safety over the top. I love hearing that Chai Smith-Wade is showing flashes like he's years ahead of himself. That is great. But again, if one of these starters go down, a JC Horn, a Mike Jack, Travion Merrick, Chai Smith-Wade, or either Damani Richardson or Lathan Ransom, whoever takes that spot, our DBs are in trouble. And trust me, people are going to be going after these potential free agents that we want once injuries start happening at camp. So you probably want to sign somebody before camp breaks, because if you don't, what's going to end up happening? We're going to go through a bidding war again, and fans are going to be upset that we didn't go spend $1 that they want us to go spend on a particular free agent.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing that, I mean, I echo everything that you said, but the other thing that we have to think about is like what the division that they're in, right? They're going to play 4 games against, when it's Tampa Bay. You know how Mike Evans has torched them so many times.
Correct.
Godwin, when you get the Falcons, like even though the Panthers won that last game, it wasn't like they stopped anybody on their offense, right? They were torched by Drake London, by Bijan Robinson, by, you know, they have incredible weapons across the NFC South. So it'd be different if we had a secondary that was shallow, but like you could hang in that division. You're going up against some of the best wide receivers in the whole NFL, and
Correct.
so again, if they don't get some reinforcements, if they don't find depth somewhere, whether it's, you know, cut day, usually on cut day there's somebody that's out there that could be and then like you said, there's some great free agents that are out there. If they don't reinforce now, it's going to be very expensive later when they need to get somebody.
Correct. So with this one, 70, is it too high, too low? What you feel about the DB room?
I don't know. It's again similar to Bryce. Like I feel like there's the expectations of the secondary is very low. No one's looking at the secondary as like, man, you better do well, right? And so at some level, the pressure is off of them, because if they struggle, the pressure is not no one's gonna blame these guys. They're gonna say like, man, you guys suck. They're gonna say, hey, front office, why didn't you do something about this? You knew what you had. And so I would say the pressure on these particular guys, because if they're healthy, if they're playing well, I know you mentioned Shaw Smith-Wade, Trayvon Merrick, like if they play well, like that's awesome. But if they don't play well, no one's going to point the finger at them. People are going to point the finger at Dan Morgan and Brent Hillis, being like, "Why do you be so cheap in the secondary? You should have got somebody." But no one's gonna say like, unless J.C. Horn regresses, nobody. If any of these guys struggle, no one's going to look at them and say like, "Hey, like, what happened to you? You were supposed to be good." Like everyone has tempered expectations of how the secondary is going to perform next year.
And I agree with you with that. And right here is the perfect time to shout out our sponsor for What's Up Doug, which is SeatGeek. Again, if you're a first-time user, use the code What's Up Doug and get $20 off your first ticket purchase with SeatGeek. Football season is right around the corner. College football is right around the corner. You can also go to concerts, comedy shows, any ticket that you may get on Ticketmaster, any third party. SeatGeek has it. Also, SeatGeek shows you best to worst seating. So again, shout out to our sponsor over here, What's Up Doug, which is SeatGeek. Do not forget the code What's Up Doug. It will save you $20 off your first ticket purchase. So, Edgar, you did say something about the front office, and that is the new Carolina one bit brain trust. Some of the positives that I do like about our brass is Dan Morgan, Brent Tillis, and Dave Canales' connection. They're all one-minded. Building the team the right way through the draft. Dan Morgan played the game. He's been around the Buffalo Bills, who have a great organization with Brandon Beane up there in Carolina North, and believing in Bryce. Regardless of what we see as fans, me as a content creator, Edgar as a content creator, fans listening right now, they know what's going on. Regardless of our opinion, they believe in Bryce. They're putting the product around him. They're giving him everything that he needs to succeed. But there's the opposite. Not adding more vets to the roster. Is that going to come back and bite us by going younger? Cutting Jadeveon Clowney, regardless of him saving us money, we haven't used any of that money yet. Not changing up the coaching staff. Should Evero been fired? If the season goes bad, why wasn't he fired? And then possibly injuries in key positions. We saw what happened with Jonathan Brooks. We saw what happened to Jatavion Sanders. We saw what happened to Trevin Wallace. We saw what happened to Shaw Smith-Wade, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, Ike Ekwonu, Taylor Moton. I can keep going with injuries, but I did, and let me pull it back up. I gave him a 50-50 because I think Edgar has basically said if the season goes well, you can't blame the front office. If the season goes bad, just like we just said about the DBs, like we're going to be upset with the DBs, but we're going to be looking at the front office. Dan, Dave, why were you guys being so cheap? Why didn't you guys go get certain free agents? Why didn't you go get Jalen Ramsey? Why didn't you go get Jair Alexander? Again, we do not know if we're going to sign the other two free agents, but we know two free agents that a lot of Panther fans like either connection with Evero or being a hometown kid we didn't go put out or we didn't go pursue to bring to Carolina. So I'm okay with the 50-50. I believe in the brain trust because I love that they're on a one-minded track. The only problem I'm glad we don't have is where we had a darn, what was our other GM name? I don't even say his name. That's the reason why.
Fitterer?
Who? Fitterer. Thank
Fitterer.
you. Like Fitterer and Rule, where you had, butting heads, or we want this person, we want that person. People questioning draft picks, questioning us spending money. I'm glad that they have a role, they know their role, and they come together, and it's a great mesh. There's nobody doing too much or not doing their job. So I'm loving our front office. Again, I do think we are a new One Carolina. And I did say New Carolina, but one bit brain trust. And I believe in one person. I'm gonna take this down and I hand it over to Edgar. I love that Mr. Temper is not in the football operations type of side. He has been so quiet since he's given the reins over to Dan Morgan. Yes, even in the blueprint, we saw how they were trying to ask him. He's just giving little analytics off of what he knows with stops and how he sees different values, but he let the football people make football decisions. So thank you, Mr. Temper, for finally being there, but not being the loudest voice, because your opinion does still matter, but you let the football guys do football things. Go ahead, Edgar.
Yeah, I think 50% is a good percentage. I hate that I'm reusing some of these answers that I've used before, but I feel like they can go either way, right? And so at some level, like on the other side, right? Like I think people buy into their process, right? We got to see in the blueprint between, like you said, the alignments between Morgan, Canales, Tillis, Eric Eager, and analytics, right? What they've been doing like makes a lot of sense to fans. Like, okay, we need to like we don't need to overspend. We don't need to like go crazy. Like we need to be prudent and grow homegrown talent and make this youth movement like work. We have a young quarterback, and then let's build this the right way. Let's just not like throw in band-aids here and there. Like we need to make this sustainable and for the long haul, right? On the other side, you also watch the rest of the NFL, right? 2 years ago, CJ Stroud and the Texans went from like everybody said this is the worst situation ever. They make the playoffs 2 years in a row, and they were kind of in the same boat as Carolina, right? Last year, the Washington Commanders, they just got a quarterback, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Same thing. Just they brought in a new coach, brought in a new GM, brought in a new quarterback, and in year one they made the playoffs and are like darlings of NFL, right? And so, yeah, we want to build things the right way, but then the fans are like looking around the league, like how come these teams can build it overnight, still young, still sustainable, still growing, but like we're still stuck in the mud. And so I think it's a 50-50, right? You've got on one end, people like the process and you want to see it built this way, but at the other end, other teams are doing it and they've been doing very well. And so I would say I'm also in that 50-50 boat where we've got to see improvement. We've got to see something better than last year, or else this process, even though it's very thoughtful, it's through a lot of numbers and analytics, even though it's correct, like the results aren't showing. And so this is only Canales' second year. He's never been a play caller and a head coach before. He struggled. I forgot who did the analysis, but he struggled at the beginning of the year with their play calling. Like their play calling was garbage. And he got his groove in the second half.
That Denver game, you saw a different type of play style, and that's when Bryce really came back to the fold of being QB1.
Yep. And that Falcons game, I always go back to it. Like he was just there was like nothing he could not do wrong. Like he just do everything. Correct. Any play, run, pass, play action, a scramble, like everything worked, right? And so I think there's definitely a reason to be optimistic. And if it goes bad, again, we're supposed to be patient because it's a young team, but 7 seasons, straight seasons of losing, plus seeing other teams around the league turn around in 1 year or 2 years. Detroit's a really good model because everybody's in love with Dan Campbell and how they turn around, but they struggled their first 2 years. Like if you look at the first years of Dan Campbell, like they weren't lining up the scoreboard or even with the standings in the first couple of years, and then they turned it around. Sounds like similar to the Panthers last year. And so if they can go on that same trajectory as the Lions, then everything about the pressure meter, we just throw this all away. We throw away all your great work and your slides because now there's no pressure at all because they turned the corner. But right now we're scrambling, trying to figure out what to do because we've endured 7 straight losing seasons, and
I agree.
We're always going to be cautiously optimistic because we're Panthers fans, but we're not going to be we're not gonna be completely surprised if this doesn't go well either.
I agree, and like I said, like this is not saying that this is going to happen. This is just there's pressure on certain players. Again, Bryce Young, I will say it, public enemy number one in Carolina. Love or hate him, he has so much pressure on him. Even when we win, they may not like his stat line because he didn't throw for over 300 yards, throw for 4 touchdowns, like a Jaden Daniels, a Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, the top tier quarterbacks.
Yeah, forgot about Denver.
Yeah, you
can't. Denver too.
Like the scheme. Can Evero finally have his scheme show what the reason why we brought him in to be our defensive coordinator? Acquisitions, rookies, mix of veterans and rookies. Then you look at DBs. It would be surprising, and I've said this, not saying we're going to make the playoffs or not saying we're going to make the Super Bowl, but when we did make that roll in 2015, you had one household name. I understand Peanut Tillman, all those guys are still on this team, but Josh Norman made a household name for him in the league. And JC Horn has been doing that. He got paid because he is in the top tier. I seen the graphic where some people disrespected him on PFF about where he's at, but his peers know that JC Horn is one of the top corners and the new brain trust. Did they finally get it right? Do we finally have a GM we can believe in? Do we have a coach that players believe in? And obviously, I do think we have a owner that wants this team to succeed, not only for his benefit, but for the city and for fans. So that's how I feel Edgar is. There anybody we missed? You know, like you said, I mean, we don't want to repeat ourselves, but I really think this season is very important for a turn of good or bad, because 7 seasons is a long time. It's a long time, and I actually like how you paralleled our transition to the Detroit Lions. I said that from the jump. I love how Dan Campbell used to play for them. First year was terrible. Knocked the Green Bay Packers out. His second year as a head coach out of the playoffs. It was a win or go home. Packers lost. They went home. Third season, they made it to the NFC Championship game. Questionable play calling. They could have been in the Super Bowl, but look at what he's doing. Like, they're a juggernaut. They've lost coaches because of the culture that they built in Detroit. So I'm hoping this live we can come back and be like, man, like there's no more pressure like you said. But right now, like you said, there's cautious optimism around Carolina, and that's the reason why there is pressure on certain players in certain leagues.
Yeah, I remember that 2015 season when they went 15-1. Like, I felt like there was no pressure at all. Like, everything was just bonus. Everything was just like we're on extra bonus overtime pay, right? Like, everything is just extra, right? And so I want to get to that point again. I will say that, like, I'm again cautiously optimistic. Like, all the things that they're doing is the right thing. All the players that they like, their draft grades were good. Their free agency grades are good. Their process is good. Their coaches are good. Like, they're doing everything right. All we need is the results, and I'm just hopeful that they can turn it around. And if it doesn't, you know, this is gonna suck.
It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be terrible. But Edgar, I appreciate you pulling up, man. Like I said, you're one of the OGs on Twitter. Like I said, I'm not gonna say on YouTube. You're one of the OGs. Like, people love your content. Again, I know you and our guy Ricky had a podcast for doing draft. Can't wait for that to come back. But I mean, do you have anything you want to tell the people that they can be looking out for in the near future, or you're just ready for football to get here?
Ready for football. We'll bring back thank you for everybody who supported the Draft Guide, and we'll bring back the Draft Crush podcast again once college season starts turning around. But we've always had a love for like these new players, these crop of players, and so it's like a coronation when you have the draft and you see some of these people that you love and they go to your favorite team. And so happy to reboot that. But until then, you'll see my stuff on Twitter again. But I'm following people like Doug and watching their content. They're doing a great job, and I'm just supportive and love, because my backstory is I'm here in Los Angeles, and back in the day we had no Panthers content whatsoever. Just scratching for it. Now we have so many, and even like you, Doug, like the stuff that you did for the draft, like meeting those prospects and grinding out there, like you give us fans or other content creators stuff to like look forward to and to watch. And so I'm more of an appreciative of you and what you've been putting together. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Edgar. So again, it's your man C Dougie with our special guest Edgar Salmingo. We will put his Twitter handle in the description. But until next time, we'll see you guys back in August. Everybody stay safe. Everybody stay blessed. Peace. Keep pounding.